everybody, my name is Abby Sulit. I'm a freelance theater actress from the Philippines and currently an online vocal coach and voice teacher. If you haven't already, please subscribe. This channel is all about #smart singing and helping you become the best performer that you can be. Joining me today is Mr. Timothy Racho.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I would like to introduce myself. I am not a voice teacher or a voice student. I'm actually a medical student. So that's my background, but I have been singing for not too long as well, but not that short din naman. But yes, I'm a medical student and that's what I hope to bring to the table today.
He is also my co-founder for A Chorus Online, guys. So yes, we are the founders of A Chorus Online. Please follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Okay, so we're gonna talk about vocal registers, what we understand about the vocal registers, and the one voice theory. So a few nights ago, we actually researched on vocal registers. For sure, you're familiar with the terms chest register, your falsetto, your head voice, your vocal fry, and your whistle registers. Some people would know the modal, right? Is that the one I read? I don't remember.
I have no idea.
I think it's modal register. There's also middle register, and you have all these terminologies. A few nights ago, we were researching on this topic, and we talked to my mentor. Her name is Jimby De La Cruz. Follow her also on her socials. And we were talking about so many things, like terminologies, and basically what's happening is because we have too many terms, we tend to we confuse ourselves even more. You want to add to what I was saying?
Well, there's a saying in music that to learn music, you have to learn the rules, but to make music, you have to break them.
Exactly.
There's that saying. So, I think what we can do tonight, well, whatever time you're watching this video, is we're gonna try to build up some rules and then we're gonna break them all. So, exciting. So the original topic for today was registers, and we were wondering, how do we explain registers? And we jumped into a rabbit hole, but we'll get to that later. So let's try to explain what we know about the so-called registers. Alright, so as far as we're concerned, there are 4 registers. The first one is your vocal fry. The second one is your chest register or chest dominant, how do you say that?
Chest dominant register, I guess.
Yeah, I
People
guess.
also know it as the lower register.
Yes, right. More of like a chest mix, if you want to call it that way. The third register is your head mix, head register, head voice, if you will.
Or upper register for
Yes.
some people.
And finally, your top register is your whistle register. Right. So what are those? And what are there for? How do you know there are for?
Some teachers
Some
actually
say
say
5.
5, like there's a middle register.
Yeah.
But in this discussion, for our discussion today, guys, we're only going to talk about 4.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Yes, because we're going to apply what we learned 2 weeks ago about your vocal cords and the muscles controlling sound. Alright?
Right. So if you remember from the
2 weeks
video
ago.
2 weeks ago, which we will put over here. Or there, somewhere.
Yes.
We talked about 2 main muscles which control the thickness of the vocal cords. Those being the Thyroarytenoid, which controls lower pitch sounds, and the Cricothyroid, which controls the higher pitch sounds. So if you remember the little graphics we put in the video, the Thyroarytenoid is parallel to the vocal cords. When it contracts, it makes the vocal cord shorter and therefore thicker, and thicker cords produce lower sounds.
By the way, guys, he says we because he helps me edit my video.
Anyway, the Cricothyroid, oriented almost parallel to the perpendicular to the vocal cord. When it contracts, it kind of pulls on the vocal cord, making it thinner and therefore longer, and therefore producing a higher pitch sound. So, what does that mean for us in terms of register? So, I think a good way to illustrate this is to give you examples of different notes in different registers. So for example, for a vocal fry note, it would sound like this.
Basically, if you make your lowest sound possible, that is your vocal fry.
Right. You know where it's almost like gritty, shaky, gritty, vibraty.
Yes, it's called vocal fry, guys, because it sounds like you're frying something.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like
Right.
if you try to produce the lowest sound that you can make, that is
Right.
your vocal fry.
Right. That's a vocal fry. And let's do a note in the chest register or something like.
I love how we're not.
We're at the same note.
We're clashing.
Anyway, a note in the head register would be like. And I can't whistle, so for the whistle register, something like
Something like that.
something like
I
that.
can't do it, guys.
All right.
I have no
So
control.
if you've noticed, they're kind of arranged in order, right? So the lowest is the fry and the highest is the whistle, and that makes sense because when you think about it, different registers signify where a certain muscle is dominant. Huh? What does that mean? All right. So remember, let's take the vocal fry. The vocal fry is like the lowest sound you can produce, right? And that's actually because you're using almost purely thyroarytenoid.
Yes.
Remember, thyroarytenoid is for the lower pitched voices. So when you do a lower pitched sound that like as low as a that's practically fully thyroarytenoid, right? Yes. So on the converse end, the whistle register is almost purely cricothyroid. Because I can't do it because I don't know how to whistle. I can't even whistle like I can't even whistle like that. But anyway, it's mostly purely cricothyroid, and the two registers in the middle, being chest and head, or upper or lower, or whatever you want to call it, are a mix of both. And in what way? The lower or chest register actually is a thyroarytenoid dominant register. What does that mean? So if you think about it, it's on the lower end. It's not the super low end, but it's in the mid. It's in the middle, but near the lower end. So it makes sense that the muscle responsible for lower sounds is more dominant, right? So the thyroarytenoid is working hand in hand with the cricothyroid, but it's more of the thyroarytenoid being dominant in this case. While when you do the upper or the head register, that's actually the opposite, where the cricothyroid is more dominant, and the thyroarytenoid plays a part, but is not quite as active in that case.
Yes. Now let's talk about why can we produce vocal fry sounds and why can't we produce whistle sounds. Yes, the average person would use their chest register when they talk, right? What does that mean? If we use our chest register a lot, it means the muscle that's working the most is your thyroarytenoid muscle. So therefore, your cricothyroid muscle isn't as batak. Okay, that is a
Tagalog.
Filipino word
Just say,
meaning strong.
Yeah,
right?
strong, yeah.
Right,
Or
so
bulky.
or bulky. So your cricothyroid is weak. That's why some people actually have a hard time doing their falsetto or head voice or whistle. But we have to understand that the common person would use their chest more than their head.
Right.
There is an exception, like for example, I have a friend who speaks with a high voice. Okay? So with that logic, concept, we know that he is technically using his cricothyroid more. And when he actually took lessons with Ate Jimby, they noticed that he had a hard time going down and, singing the lower notes because he was so used to singing high notes. So that just goes to show that if you're using one register more often, that muscle is the one being used the most. Alright, so this is one of the things that we talked about with my mentor, and then we started talking about the one voice theory.
Well,
I mean, like,
it's not officially called that.
Yeah, we
I
went
suppose.
down a rabbit hole, guys, talking about the vocal registers because, again, I want to explain all these things to you, like your vocal fry, your chest voice, your head voice, and your whistle tone in a, I don't want to say scientific way, but
More like a structured way.
yes, a structured way of explaining these things. But I don't want you to get stuck.
So we were talking about the practical reason for defining registers. right? And it represents a change in technique. Does that make sense? In that, for example, you're trying to sing a song and you're trying to hit this note, and say it's too high for your chest register, and you're like, your teacher will go like, why not use your head voice? And you're like, oh yeah, why don't I do that? And so you change the way you produce the sound. So instead of using your thyroarytenoid muscle and all the different resonators over here, oh my god, resonance is another topic altogether. But
Stay tuned
we
for that,
digress.
guys.
We digress. So instead of using your thyroarytenoid, you change the muscle to your cricothyroid, and that makes it easier because the thyroarytenoid can only do so much. You know how you can belt only till a certain note?
Yes, and then you start cracking and be like, oh no, I can't reach it anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's the practical reason why we define the registers, because depending on which register you're using, your technique is supposedly changes. I say supposedly because we're about to jump into the one voice theory. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So what is this one voice theory that Abby keeps saying? We just spent like 10 minutes or so telling you about, oh, registers are like this and like that, and now we're gonna tell you, well, there's probably no such thing as registers. We're basically gonna contradict everything we just said in the past like 10 minutes, and you're like, what the heck, why are we doing this?
Why?
And the reason being, we believe that in a well-trained free voice, it shouldn't matter what register you're on. Technically, when you're singing, it's a matter of matching pitch.
Yes.
Right, so if the note is like A and you sing an A, it doesn't matter how you produce it.
I'll put a description of a free voice, a very good description of a free voice below, guys, so that you can read it. Because I don't want to read it now because it's very long.
Yeah, but it's a very good
it's
description.
it's a description for a very good book.
Like I said a while ago, it's a matter of technique. So if, for example, you're asking me to hit C5, which sounds like this. That's C5, I think. I think it's C5. Don't hate me if it's not C5. Okay, comment below if it's actually C5. So if you're asking me to produce C5, I'm not gonna belt it. Because I can't. But I don't have to think, oh no, I can't use my thyroarytenoid. Time to shift to the cricothyroid. I don't have to think that. I don't have to actually change a mindset or anything. It's just, well, this is how I know how to produce a note, so I'll sing it that way. I guess a more practical example would be, let's say, the note A4, which sounds like ah. So I can actually belt A4, but doesn't mean I should always belt A4. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Like, for example, if the song is a mellow, chill song, like, let's say, what's a good mellow song? Left Behind from Spring Awakening, which goes, all the things his mama wished he'd bear in mind. Would it make sense to be like, all the things his ma? Huh? What happened? Doesn't make sense.
Guys.
It doesn't make sense. She just died, right? But compared to other songs where a belt A, let's say Out There, the belt A, I treasure. That's an example of a belt A, and it makes sense in that context. So if you were like, huh? I thought that registers were like this, like that. How come you can sing A, the same note, two different ways? I thought that it was cricothyroid dominant versus thyroarytenoid dominant. And now you're singing A with either dominance. The belted one being TA dominant and the non-belted one being CT dominant. So you're like, oh, why are you telling me this? So what now about registers? And that's the whole point. It's a matter of technique. It's a matter of choice. Of course, these are all tools, and I think there is still merit in knowing registers in that it's a tool, but it should be a tool and not a crutch.
Yes.
Okay? What does that mean? So it should help you. It should be something you can use, but you can't just lean on the idea the whole time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yes, and I really like the analogy by our mentor at the JMB. The knowing the registers is like training wheels on a bike. You know, when you don't know anything at all, the training wheels will help you ride the bike. Like, they'll make you drive it smoothly. But if you already know how to ride the bike, the training wheels are just a hindrance. They're even dangerous.
Yes.
When you think about it. So that's why when you already know how to ride the bike, you actually take off the training wheels, and so you ride the bike as you should normally ride the bike, and safely, and you can do more things. Like, for example, you can't lean when you have training wheels,
Yes.
but when you're on a bike without training wheels, you can lean. And so, what does that mean? This brings me to this concept which I just coined today, which I'd like to call musical transcendence. What the heck does that mean? What I just mean by that is, at some point, when you've reached a certain amount of training and knowing your voice and knowing yourself and freeing your body, you can just throw these concepts out the window because you know how to use your instrument.
Yes.
It opens up new things to explore. And a good example of musical transcendence is that of vocal range. Remember the vocal range video, which we'll link over here? The vocal range video said, oh, if you're a baritone, you have a range of G2 to G4. Well, I am a baritone, I believe. Well, I think I'm a baritone. But I can sing up to A4, and if you include my falsetto and mix, it can go up to C5. And you might be wondering, but you're a baritone, you're supposed to be fixed in the G2 to G4. And that's the thing, if you just box yourself in, if you don't transcend these rules, you're going to limit yourself so bad that you're not going to progress. And the same goes for registers. I mean, it's a good tool to know when you're starting out that, oh, so that's why it's like this, so that's why it's like that, so that's why it's so weak when I use my head voice, because I'm not trained to use it. That makes sense. But once you've mastered your body and your instrument, there's no point in distinguishing head voice from chest voice. It's a matter of technique. It's up to you.
Yes.
Right? And it allows you more freedom and flexibility, and ultimately allows you to be a better singer and artist.
Yes.
To transcend means to go beyond. And that's really what we want you to do as singers. You can't just say, I'm like this, I'm like that, I'll box myself in, I'll never reach this, I'll never reach that. No. It's about going beyond. It's about transcending. And we really hope this video, if it confused you, that's alright, because we're confused too. But we hope it gave you some insight, at least, and made you think about how you sing.
So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell. Please also like this video and follow me on my other socials. And also follow us on A Chorus Online on Facebook and on Instagram. You can book one-on-one classes with me via calendly.com/AbigailSulit. So I'll see you guys next week. Mahal ko kayo. Bye!